Testing, check, check, check. Ready. And are we rolling?
Wait, hold on. All right, that's better.
Thank you so much for coming to hang out today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's amazing. I'm so excited to talk about Deeper Well. And I was telling you a minute ago, it's like I learned things listening to this album.
Okay.
I feel like I feel like you just like kind of opened your diary and like, your world.
Pretty much, yeah.
Is that scary?
It can be, yeah. It can be really intimidating to put your most intimate thoughts out there. But I don't know, but I always find it actually to be sort of the opposite in the sense that some of the things that are hard for me to say in real life, like I can actually randomly say more easily, like in song form, you know? Something that might be difficult for me to say to someone, like I can put it in a song. I don't know what that is, but yeah, the whole process is really therapeutic for me, for sure.
Is it like you write the song, you put it out, and then you hear it on the album, you're like, oh, that feels too close to home, and then somebody asks you about it, and you're like, it's just a song.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
No, I mean, I truly love all the songs on all the projects, or they wouldn't even make it that far, you know what I mean? I'd have to be, like, I'm cool with saying whatever I'm saying, you know, as I'm putting it on the record, because I'm the one who has to live with it, you know, that long. But no, I mean, I think that, like, I have just found that the more vulnerable that you actually are, like, the more things connect with people, because we live in this age, I think, where we, like, it's nice to be reminded that we're all in this together and that we're all made of the same emotions. I think we can, we can find a million reasons every day to just point fingers and kind of feel disconnected from each other as a species. But it's really just like the raw stuff. That's really what this album, where it came from, is just the human experience, you know.
Tell me about, kind of start at the beginning for me, and tell me like how this came to be.
Well, I think just as a general picture, I knew that it would be different than the last record. Like the last record I put out was kind of acerbic. It was like harder edged in the sense that it had more electronic instruments on it. There was a lot of synths. And it was a divorce record. Like it was really emotional, and I think it was like, it just had a different energy, but it was what it was, and it was really fun for me to create. But after Star-Crossed, I was like, okay, I'm feeling a big pull toward just the simplified palette, warm, organic instruments, and kind of leaning back a little bit, you know, more into the country and folk side of me, which is always there, and I think I always have one foot there, and then I'm kind of always exploring other things. But yeah, just, you know, going through more life changes, moving out to the woods, feeling just a pull to be in touch with nature again. I think that all started this this record cycle and this inspiration cycle. And then I was also feeling like I really wanted to get out of Nashville and create. And I love Nashville, I've made all my music here. But for some reason I was like, I'm feeling pulled to New York City, which is kind of a conundrum, like against what I was just talking about nature and simplifying. You've got New York City, which is this like maximalist environment full of humans. It's loud, it stinks in places. It's like, it's humanity like on 10. But I felt really pulled to go work there at Electric Lady Studios, which is obviously like in the heart of Greenwich Village, you know, the heart of the folk scene. And I found it really inspiring to take this blank canvas in my head to this crazy city and just being surrounded by humanity like that. And I found it like ironically easy to tap into my kind of more zen side there, like self-reflective side, I guess.
No, maybe it was because you started in the woods and then you got that fix, and then you went and got the other, but then you knew you got to come home to the woods.
Yeah.
So you got to do it all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Tell me about Cardinal, because I think maybe it's telling that Cardinal is on this album. Because I heard you, where were you? I heard you talk about it sometime, and I saw you at Loretta Lynn's funeral, and it felt like there was a lot of, I think you lost a lot of people who may have inspired you artistically and creatively in the last bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm a believer in the other side. I think we don't have all the answers there, and I think everything is made of energy, and it's, you know, it would not surprise me if I just feel like there's got to be something else other than what's right in front of us, right? I mean, and it was actually after John Prine passed, and he actually I'm fortunate enough to say that he became a good friend and a mentor to me, and Fiona, you know, his fam, and he was just always so kind to me, so supportive, and I mean, he hands down influenced me probably more than anybody else in the songwriting, you know, aspect of things. But yeah, after he left this world, it was really strange. A lot of things kind of started happening, and we would be here all day if I like went into all of those things. But you know, there was some weird, kind of some supernatural stuff. Like sometimes I feel like I'm tapped into that. Like my friends will always be like, okay, of course this would happen to you. Like the weird stuff always finds me. But one of the things was that this cardinal would come to my window every day, and it was this same one, and he would just sit on this branch, and like I said, all this other stuff kind of started happening, and like interesting like song ideas and messages and lights turning on and off. I don't know, it was just getting weird. But yeah, it was just, you know, there's that old saying, what is it? Cardinals appear when angels are near.
Yeah.
Or yeah, vice versa. But yeah, that's where that song kind of came from. Just looking at this cardinal, being like, are you just a cardinal, or are you bringing me a message from somewhere else?
It feels significant to me that the album opens with that song.
Yeah.
Am I overthinking it or no?
No, not really. I mean, what's funny is like, you know, I collected all these songs and then took a step back and looked at them all, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of songs dealing with like the other side, death, you know, what happens when you die, existential questions, lightness, darkness. You know, it's not just here's some relationship songs. That is in there as well, but it's so many other things. And I don't know, I just thought like that opening lick would be, if I dropped a needle on a record and I heard that lick, like it would make me really happy. So that's what I chose.
Talk about, you know, like the title track. Tell me about Deeper Well and why that was the song that you decided to name the album after.
I was up in New York City at Electric Lady with Daniel Tashian and Ian Fitchhook, who I made this record with. And we had, I think the first song we wrote for the project was Nothing to Be Scared Of. And then I think Deeper Well was second. And largely when I go into making a record, I don't know what it's going to be called. I don't know. I just kind of let the songs kind of shape the journey and see where we are, and then zoom out and see, is there sort of an overarching pattern, you know, here, or overarching theme. And but when Deeper Well was written, I was like, this is the title. Like I just knew it spoke to in a larger sense, like where I feel like I was in my life and where I am right now. I mean, I'll be 36 next week. So I'm like right in the middle of my mid-30s. It feels really good. And I feel like Deeper Well is sort of an ode to ruthlessly removing resistance to growth. And that has been a theme for me in the last few years. And that can look like a lot of things. It can look like, you know, trimming out the fat, trimming friendships down, like reallocating where your energy is spent. You know, are these habits working for me? Like, am I living in the right place? Like, you know, what can I like refine here about my life? And sometimes that means maybe disappointing someone who has different expectations, you know. But yeah.
Seems like a very grown-up
I think
outlook,
it's,
you know?
it's therapy. That's where it comes from.
When I listen to the album, I think Kacey is so much further along in maturity thing.
No, don't, let's not. No, I can be a real immature bitch sometimes. But I do try to work out my thoughts like in these songs, and, you know, maybe I'm projecting sort of like what I'm hoping for myself, or like maybe what I see for my best self in there. Do I live up to that every day? I don't know, probably not, but you know.
You said Ruthless earlier, and that's one of my favorite songs.
Thanks.
On the album. Like as a mom, you know, it's
Totally.
like, I'm a nice person, but if you screw with my kids.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought about my nephew when when we were creating that song. It's like, obviously it can be about somebody that you're in love with, or it can be about anyone that you love, you know, and that you feel protective over. That's how I feel about like my friend group. Like I'm nice until you know, if you're messing with somebody that I really love, like gloves come off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My kids are like, don't call school, mommy. I know you're mad, don't call school.
Yeah. I can imagine as a parent that would probably be, that'd probably be hard.
Tell me about Too Good to Be True. I love the opening of that song, because I think maybe anybody who's ever been in love in the early days, like it sounds like heaven to them.
Totally.
And you painted it so well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's that scene of like being newly in love with somebody, or you know, you're dying to spend time with them. You know, you're making love, you're making breakfast, throwing all of your cares out the window. And I guess ultimately that song is just about, you know, I think it's really difficult to open yourself back up again after you've been hurt, after you've been really hurt. And it takes a lot of bravery to put yourself out there again. But I do think that's why we're here as humans. And it can be easy to like stay in this little world, like currently single world, where like you can control every aspect of everything, and it feels good. But you also grow a lot as a human by like being like, by rubbing up against someone else's shortcomings and them rubbing up against yours. And it's just scary, because it's like that's inevitable with love. Like conflict is inevitable, it's part of it. And I think I was just in this mindset at that point in time of like, okay, I'm opening myself up again here, and I really hope that, like, it's funny, we fall in love with people. I'm reading a book kind of about this right now, where like you fall in love with someone and you sort of create this image of them that is just flawless. And I mean, if you're not careful, you know, and you see them for who like you really want them to be, and the things that like fulfill your deepest dreams. And like, they're also just human, you know? And so, I don't know, it's somewhere in there. It's just like hoping, okay, this person that I'm like, I'm going back in, I'm falling for you. Like, please don't be too good to be true, you know? You're showing me your best self, and I'm kind of projecting onto you as things that I really want, and I really hope they match up at the end of the day.
The thing that you said about being single and it being and being good with it, and then, because I think when you get to that place, it's a big decision,
right,
to do it again, and it's not something that you really hear people talk about.
Right, I know. I've been single right now for almost a year, and I'm kind of like, this is amazing. Like, no one is messing with my peace, you know? And I can pour into myself wholly and completely. And I mean, I've been a serial monogamous my whole life, so I needed this to see I do not need somebody to be truly happy. Like, I'm not scared of being alone. So the next person that comes into my life better be high value, because I have everything I need. I feel good in my body. I have amazing friends. I just love where I'm at, and I'm not like searching for anything. So it's like, if you're coming in, you better be adding, and that's where I'm at, y'all. So anyway.
And you're strong enough to recognize, like, you're seeing those, what do we call them now, red flags.
Oh yeah.
Oh, little sister made me sad that I wasn't a little sister, or that I didn't have a little sister, because that song just seems like love in its purest.
Yes.
In its purest form.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there is something so beautiful and terrible about a sister's relationship. You will hurt each other so much. Like, growing up, like, Kelly and I fought a lot, but I cannot imagine my life without her. She's one of my best friends. She's a confidant. We work creatively so close together. She shoots all my photos. She's brilliant. It's funny, a little sister is just like a built-in friend. She's always been there, and, you know, we've lived under the same roof, but we have different, we see the world differently, you know? We're two totally different people, but I think that's beautiful, though. So
the album ends and you put it out, but you don't stop writing.
Right.
I understand. So they're like, okay, you're done now, Kacey. We're going to put this out. And you're like, no. And you kept going.
Yeah, because it's so fun. I got through all the album promo and everything, and then I realized I had some time, and I don't do so well with just like endless like, if I look on my schedule and I have 2 months of nothing, I'm like, oh my God, like, that that stresses me out bad. And so I think it's good for me to have, you know, something on the horizon that I'm like working towards and shaping. It fulfills me so much. And so it's interesting, those songs, some of them are older, and then some of these are newer, and some of them are like ruminations on, you know, some of the feelings that were already on the original record. And then a couple are just like, if Deeper Well had some summer bops, like what would that sound like? Okay, that's fun, let's throw those on there. But yeah, like Little Sister was written in like 2019, I think. And it's just interesting how songs like find their way, you know, they like, Little Sister didn't work for any record until now, and then something about it stuck its hand out and said like, hey, like, remember me? Like, and I was like, wait, this would totally work. This is an extension of me exploring, you know, my childhood, myself, like, you know, where it came from, really. So it made sense.
Talk about kind of how, like what I said before, like when you started working on the album, like what did you, or maybe when you got done with it the first time, what did you want people to think or feel when they got to the bottom of it? Because I remember this, like, I mean, this launch was like massive. Like I think we did something at the Skirmerhorn, didn't we? Like we celebrated this so much. And you were like, I'm still not done. But like, what did you want?
I mean, it's hard to say, because truly like making a record is selfish in nature for me, because it feels so good for me, and I just, whatever feels good to me at the time, sonically, lyrically, kind of thematically, I just kind of go with that. And then when it comes out, like there's a true letting go process of like, you know, this isn't gonna be just mine anymore. You know, I'm sharing this with other people who have their own thoughts and feelings about it. You know, it triggers their own memories and their own attachments to it. So I don't know. I really truly do. I don't know if it sounds cliche, but I try not to think too much about like, this is what I want people to feel, because it's more so about how I feel. And then I don't know how to explain it, but I guess ultimately I liked the idea of maybe a calm spot, like amongst kind of the chaos that's swirling around us all the time, you know, just kind of a warm, introspective, organic place.
To me, the project, when you listen to it top to bottom, and like I'm 10 years older than you are, but it's like, oh my gosh, as a grown woman, it makes me feel like you're not alone, because there's so many songs on this album that touch places that most of us have been, that you're like, okay, well, I'm glad
you say that. That's the beauty of music, right? It's like, you know, we kind of just flowed down this crazy river together and experience. I mean, being a human is beautiful and crazy as hell at the same time, you know? It's full of such sheer beauty and also a lot of suffering. And people have turned to music for thousands of years, you know, clinging on to melodies and chants and meditations and mantras and things that, like, you know, give people hope or solace or just plain connection. And so that's, I guess, my ultimate goal, is connecting with myself first, and then through that having an energetic connection with like other people.
So now introduce me to the newest songs.
Ruthless, which actually that was an older one as well. And Little Sister, Flower Child, right?
Flower Child.
And then we have Perfection, which I love that song so much. It's definitely sort of an ode to the OCD tendencies I have. I can definitely get, like, I'm a very details-oriented person, and even since I was little, like, I really like make sense of the world by like via symmetry and balance. I mean, you can ask all my friends, like, I'm always arranging things. Like, if I'm standing at a hostess stand at a restaurant waiting to be seated, I'm straightening the business cards. Like, I can't not. And so that song literally does touch on, you know, some of that, but also my friends' Tiny Habits. I'm such a fan of their songs, their writing, their voices. I just think they're gonna take over the damn world. And I'm lucky to call them friends. They're so sweet, and it's just an honor to have them on that song with me. And then Leon Bridges, Texas boy, been been a fan of his for a very long time, and Super Bloom is just fun. Like, I think it's funny, it's rare that I have like an up-tempo song. I just gravitate towards like the sad mid-tempo shit, and so Super Bloom was actually really fun for me, and then the fact that Leon wanted to be on it was awesome, and I love him, and I'm so pumped for his new record. And then what else do we have? We have
Is Arm's Length then?
well, we have Irish Goodbye, and let's talk about you said you had to Google Irish Goodbye.
I did. I had to Google Irish Goodbye, friends. And what I learned is Irish Goodbye really means asshole.
Not well.
I mean, it does.
Okay.
I mean, unless they like drop
Sort
dead at a party
of.
in the bathroom.
I mean, okay, let me clear this up. Socially, I support an Irish Goodbye. Romantically, I do not support an Irish Goodbye. You can't, I mean, don't ghost people.
No, it's
just have the balls to say, I'm sorry, I need to move on, I need to do this, that, or the other, and don't leave people hanging. But at a party, what are you gonna do? Make the rounds, say goodbye to 100 people? You're gonna be there all night. Just slip out the back. They won't even notice, and if they do, you can just be like, oh, I didn't wanna, whatever.
But the song isn't about a party.
It's not about a party. It's about relationally someone piecing out, checking out. So, yeah.
And you were super proud of this song.
I love that song. That was one of the newer ones. And then I think it wraps up with Arms.
I think that one's last, and then.
Nope. Yep, you're right. Wow.
Arm's Length, and then,
Need
yeah.
to study my own discography. No, Arm's Length. I love that song. I wrote that out in California with Shane McAnally, Josh Osborne, and Sarah Buxton. And they're all three of my great friends, and just so fun being in a room with them and writing. And that one kind of just fell out. But, it's not a fun feeling to really love somebody and want to pull them in, and they're just kind of keeping you here. And yeah.
I think the magic in that song for me, like a lot of people have written about that in some way. I don't think anybody has captured it the way that you did. It like with your words. I mean, it's what you do, right? Like with your word choices. I mean, it's like people like, yes, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like no question what's happening. There's no, I mean,
yeah.
it just
it's
is.
specific. I mean, the thing is that's the challenge of a songwriter, right? Like every song has been written a million times. Every emotion has been written a million times. How can you say it differently? And that's always the challenge for myself, is just like, A, how do I simplify? B, how do I make this more conversational and real? And then, also how can I flip this into an angle that like maybe somebody wouldn't expect? It's a really fun challenge. It's almost like a little game, But thanks. I'm glad you like that one. I'm really happy that found its way and made it on the record.
Do you think that the new songs, like when you look at the album as a whole, do you feel like the album was incomplete without them, or do you feel like this is like part 2 and it kind of changes? I want to say the context or the outcome. Like how does this part impact the project as a whole?
I don't know. It's tough because it's like I put so much effort and thought into an intent behind the original batch of songs. I don't feel like they're incomplete without. This is just sort of a deeper degree, I guess. It's scratching a little bit more under the surface, and I guess it just turns out there was more to say.
I love on this album kind of all of the places that you go musically and with collaborators. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because it felt like nothing really was off the table. If like you want to do this, you do it. If you want to do that, and it all works together.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you think that it works together, because it just truly is whatever is I'm kind of inspired to gravitate towards. And I mean, I love so many different kinds of music, I mean, it's just this kind of big patchwork quilt of things, just kind of different threads of inspiration from different places, and hopefully under the same umbrella they all, sort of make sense together. I don't think you can listen to my music and say it is this or it is that, and I can't even say that necessarily about maybe some albums lean more, towards something or another, but yeah, it just, honestly, it's like whatever feels good. And I look at like some of the best artists of all time, some of the biggest artists of all time. They kind of created their own genre. They're kind of genreless. Like no one can tell you what the Beatles are. They're the Beatles. They made their own they created their own genre. Like even the Eagles, it's like, are they rock? Are they country? Like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's like they're their own thing. And so that's kind of what my favorite music is.
I feel like, and I was actually talking to somebody about this today, you're driven by the song. And I think you serve the song, and then where the song falls.
1,000%. I definitely feel that way. I feel like I'm a servant to the song. I genuinely feel like the song doesn't even necessarily come from me. It comes from somewhere else. I get a lightning bolt idea. It's like, holy crap, where did that come from? And I write it down. And then of course, like my perception of my human experience and my opinion shape it to my taste. But it's not coming from me. It's coming from something else. And then, yeah.
How did you know you were done this time? That there weren't going to be any more Deeper Well songs when you finished with whatever the last song was that you wrote?
Well, what if I'm not done?
Are you done?
What if there's an even freaking deeper well, man? What if it's never ending? The limit does not exist. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I could keep going for forever probably, but I don't know. I was like, okay, this feels good here, this batch. It's kind of got touching on several different things. And then I kind of started writing other stuff and kind of started flowing into hopefully a whole nother project. It's been really fun because it's just been kind of flowing out lately and just rolling with that, not overthinking it too much, and just kind of just seeing where the inspiration takes me. It's just been so fun. I feel like a lot of times in my life, it's just been like, you know, bigger chunks of inspiration cycles, meaning like I pour everything into a record. That cycle lasts 3 years. And then I don't really weirdly like write or touch a guitar in between that. And then I come back to it. And then I kind of have a big cycle and I create another thing. And then, but this time after Deeper Well, I think maybe working on the deluxe tracks sort of kept this like creative thing flowing. And I've really enjoyed that. It's been good for me. And so now all this other stuff is coming out. I've written like even after all the Deeper Wells, like the deeper into the well stuff, I mean, I've written like maybe 12 more songs lately that I'm like, I feel really inspired by, and they're totally different than the last thing.
We didn't talk about Architect.
Oh,
we were talking about,
okay.
And I love that song, and that was the first song that hit me off of the album. The first time, it's a little bit different. I feel like then
after you listen again and again?
I've probably listened to that song probably 10 times just today.
Aw.
Because I feel like it starts with like the most simple, and then it grows
Right.
from there.
Yeah.
So, and talk about who you wrote it with, and
Yeah, I wrote Architect with Shane McAnally and Josh Osborne, and honestly, it was the last song that we wrote for Deeper Well. I had all the songs already, and then I had a day on the books with Shane and Josh, and I hadn't seen them in a while, and I was like, let's just, see what happens. You never know what you're gonna get. Songwriting is literally like casting a line out into some deep water, and sometimes you pull up a twig, and sometimes you pull up like a friggin' treasure trove. Like, you just don't know. And so I was like, let's just see what we get. And we were writing in Nashville, and it was in the couple weeks after the Covenant school shooting had happened. And I think I can speak for everybody whenever I say Nashville did not feel right for a long time after that. It just was so horrific and unbelievable, as all of those things are. But this one obviously was very close to home. And, so getting together and writing a song on a sunny day, it almost felt like, not guilty, but kind of. It's just kind of like, the fact that we get to do this and call it a job is just ridiculous, while there's parents like down the street like suffering. And so we didn't really know what to write about, what to say. We were just kind of talking about this and talking about the beauty and the terror of being a human. And it sort of, the conversation started flowing, and I remembered I had this title called The Architect, which actually started, I had 4 titles written down: The Architect, The Giver, The Taker, and I think it was The Gardener. And I thought they would be 4 separate songs. And then Giver and Taker obviously turned into one song, because that concept revealed itself of like, oh, we are both givers and takers. And I said, I have this title that I've been carrying around for a long time called The Architect. I don't really know what I would do with it. But if you say something like that in a room with either Shane or Josh, in like 2 milliseconds, you're gonna have your answer. And Josh just goes, can I speak to the architect? Like, what's going on here, in this world? And so, yeah, it really was born out of a real conversation. And I actually was holding a little green apple whenever I was sitting in there and I was thinking, and I was like, he said, can I speak to the architect? Like, what's going on here, And then talking about the beauty, the beauty of this world. And I was like, yeah, even something as like small and simple as this apple, who made it? Why? It's a perfect little snack just off of a tree. What? And I mean, it just snowballed from there. And that song was written super fast. And
that's crazy that song was written super fast.
Yeah, I mean,
because
that's Shane and Josh being in the room with them. But yeah, it just, some songs just like write themselves. And it's funny because there's other times when songs you kind of labor over them and they're like a puzzle, and by the end of the day you are brain dead because you're like, God, I cannot make this, where is this missing piece? And I'm always trying to find the balance of like, is this cheesy? Like, again, that conversational balance, simple balance, whatever. Like, I will not just put something in a song that I don't fully get behind. I never will. So even if it takes me 2 months to finish something, it's funny, you'll just be like doing the laundry one day and it's like, boom, oh, duh, there's that line right there. But yeah, some songs just like are begging to be written, and you crack open the door and they just freaking fly out, and that was one of them. Yeah.
So on a sidebar, I hear you have a clothing line.
Yeah.
That you've designed like a whole bunch of pieces for.
Well, okay, so Reformation is such an awesome clothing brand, and I'm naturally a huge fan of theirs. And this opportunity came about, and like, I'm always designing something, whether it's, an album cover or a website thing or like all my merch. Like, I'm really hands-on and all of that. But I've never gotten to flex this certain type of, creative muscle where I'm working hand in hand with a brand and thinking about their consumers, what they would like, what do I want. I want to create a world for someone to step into, much like my albums, but this was sort of an extension of that. And it did start with kind of the aesthetic of Deeper Well, and I thought, like, how could this be like taken into clothing form, into another dimension? And so it's this beautiful, tailored, like kind of cottagecore, feminine, slightly equestrian clothing collection, and I'm so proud of it. I mean, even down to all the names, like the fit of everything, where the zipper is. I mean, I'm super hands-on and like trying it on myself and going over sketches and picking the fabrics, and then we got to shoot all the photos in the Cotswolds, the English countryside, with my sister. She came and shot and they're so dreamy. And we shot at this house that's like, it was originally a monastery built in the 1400s casually, and there was a 1,000-year-old tree in the front yard. I mean, stacked stone walls and rolling hills and sheep and horses, and like, oh my God, it made my soul so happy. But so yeah, my sister and I got to collaborate on yet another thing and kind of bring the songs into sort of another dimension, and I'm really proud of it. I like truly tried to make pieces that I would personally wear and I will personally be wearing. So
is that jade? Are you wearing? Is it or something that looks like jade?
It's all turquoise, but we can say it's jade.
Just because of the song. So there's a song on the album.
Oh yeah, it's jade green.
And I'm looking at it, and so when these lights are blue, and I'm like, is that turquoise or is that jade? Is she really wearing jade like the song says?
That would be really dope if it was all jade. Actually, that people ask me, what's your favorite song? And it's ridiculous. You cannot pick. As the creator, I don't think you can pick a fave, but if I was gonna pick a fave, I feel like Jade Green would be very high up on there. That song makes me wanna like just frolic. I just wanna frolic. I just wanna run and frolic through Irish fields when I hear that song.
But listening to the album and hearing that song, and then it just feels like your essence.
Thanks. That song is really fun live. Like, it's been really fun to put together the live show that I'm about to embark on. My tour starts September 4th, so we're like, coming up on it. But yeah, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so beautiful. But Jade Green is one of my favorites live. Cardinal's gonna be amazing live. There's all these moments that I've kind of interwoven that are just like this really beautiful eye candy, but you're there for the lyrics, you're there for the music. That's what we're there for. Also, okay, Lord Huron, Nickel Creek, Father John Misty, it's like a little mini festival that I personally would love to go see. So selfishly, that's why I chose all of them. I'm fans of all of them greatly, but it's gonna be so beautiful. So I hope everyone comes to see it.
How do you take your super personal, intimate songs and translate those in an arena?
Oh yeah, okay, well that's the $1 million question, because a show can easily kind of grow legs and transform into something totally different if you're not careful in an arena, because it's so big. I mean, you're also literally playing in a concrete circle, which is made for sports, not music. And so it can feel really impersonal, it can feel cold, it can feel kind of like the audience is very anonymous and far away. Like I feel like where I shine is like in a theater. Like I love the banter, I love being able to see the audience, like it feels very personal. But an arena is amazing for so many reasons, and I'm also a production nerd. So, you have a lot more leeway to do really special things, but at the end of the day, I just want, like even with the albums, like, and all my songs, it's, if at the end of the day I can sit with the guitar and they can still translate, then that's kind of my end goal. And that's how I feel about an arena, is like, how can we pull the audience in, make them feel like they're part of it, not that they're just watching some spectacle, and personal, connected, and how do we make this feel like almost like you just saw a theater show, And so hopefully I'll achieve that at the end of the day. I guess we'll see.